My name's Harnish Patel. I got Armaan Bunting beside me, and you're listening to Game Over Toronto on SDPN. Before we bring Sid in here, though, I want to give a quick shout out. We are raising money for Alphabet Sports Collective throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. Alphabet Sports Collective creates a safe and inclusive environment in hockey for all folks of all sexual identities and gender expressions through education, community building,
No sound,
and
no sound. Rob.
mobilization.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. One thing before we actually do go forward with this, I want to give a quick shout out to the Alphabet Sports Collective. As many of you guys know, we're raising money for the Alphabet Sports Collective throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Alphabet Sports Collective creates a safe and inclusive environment in hockey for folks of all sexual identities and gender expressions through education, community building, and mobilization. You can donate to Alphabet Sports Collective using the link that you'll see in the chat. So if you do have some money to donate, please go ahead. It's a great cause. But my name's Harnish Patel. Beside me is Armaan Bunting, and you're listening to Game Over Toronto on the SDPN network. Without further adu, join me in welcoming Sid back to this show. Sid, thank you for coming and joining us again. The last game you were on, you had some tough love for the Leafs, breaking down a 5-3 loss to Chicago. Sportsnet, or the SDPN fans, loved it. When we tweeted out that you were joining us today, our first comment was win or lose. Something tells me this one's going to get sassy. So, Sid, give us your thoughts about that OT win and this game in its entirety.
Well, good evening. Well, first off, can we get I need to hear on air the way you guys were 10 minutes ago. Can we try this again? What are we? Is this a book club? Give me, what's the energy like? One more, let's try this again.
Sure.
I don't care what you do, yell, go woo. Apologies to people sleeping around you. I really don't care right now. The Leafs just pulled off one of their more improbable playoff victories since 2004. Give me a little something here. You excited? You feel good?
Let's fucking go!
That's better.
They actually pulled it off.
Holy shit,
masterpiece
man.
theater for a second.
we really went in calm for how excited we were at the
sensational victory. And remember, the king will be coronated on May the 6th. Let's come on here, guys. I don't always like this team. And that was nuts. That was fucking nuts.
We were ready to absolutely shred them too.
Okay, so where do you want to take it? I'm a guest. Where do you want to take this first?
Well, let's talk about the story of the night. Let's talk about that OT, because that's when we first joined the call. And we were absolutely shitting ourselves throughout the entire thing. If you guys haven't checked out the tweet on SDPN, check it out. It was pretty funny. And yeah, it was not looking good for us. What did you think about that OT? Because the Leafs got outshot in that, 2-7 or something, 2-4. It was wild, right?
It was. Listen, from the end of the first period on, it was a one-way street.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, and as much as Sheldon Keefe tried to destroy Samsonov's confidence after game one, he failed. Every Leaf fan should be very happy that he did not reach his end goal and not throw in Joseph Woll. Yeah. Because I still couldn't understand what he was thinking in that moment. Because Ilya Samsonov, not because of his head coach had nothing to do with it, has balls of steel. And in a contract year, he has stepped up massively. That second period was the most important period by any Leaf goalie this season. That should have been 5-2 going into that second intermission. Easily.
Yeah, they could have easily had 3 within the first 10 minutes.
Samsonov was fantastic. He was utterly and completely fantastic. That to me, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, isn't it interesting? After the first period where he looked a little shaky and he was a little jittery, it seemed, the way that he was able to bounce back and I don't know what Sheldon Keefe or what or anyone told him after that first period, but the moment he got on the ice in that second period, he made a huge save like within the first minute, and that carried through the rest of the game, right? It was insanity. He played out of his mind. Fantastic, hands down the best player on the ice today.
Yeah, he really.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, any
really,
final thoughts on Samsonov? Because then we're going to move on. We got 9 other things to talk about. Go
ahead. Yeah, he really just had the one misstep on the second goal where he had trouble tracking it. And that was really it. You know,
I agree.
And, you know, I know like on Twitter, on Reddit, there were comments about how Sammy should have had that. I understand that. But my goodness, did he keep us in this game? That second period was so key. And then even in the third period and then overtime, we were getting shelled for the first 15 minutes of that.
In that second period, he had to deal with the Lightning trying to score and TJ Brody trying to score. And Samsonov was still fantastic against everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm floored at how this played out. Listen, and I don't care if people get mad at me, it's the math. This was not a game the Leafs deserved to win.
Oh, not at all.
Not at
all. I had no problem with their first, but like past that, it was they weren't great. I'll say this though, with like, what was it, 5 minutes to go in the third?
Yeah.
It just seemed like Tampa. No, I shouldn't phrase it that way. I got to give the Leafs credit. The Leafs finally kind of cranked it up, and it was, you know, they were fairly consistent Toronto throughout OT. Obviously, they got outplayed a little bit, but they were a lot more steady. And Morgan Rielly is now the NWO in Tampa Bay. He's the bad guy. He is villain number one. I did not anticipate Morgan Rielly, of all people, being like the biggest asshole of the series in terms of Tampa, but like they hate his guts right now.
Yeah.
They hate his guts. That Braden Point play was dangerous.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was 5, but I thought it was 2. I was stunned to even get anything for it. That was
he was in the box after, but I wasn't.
Well, that was roughing, but that was a roughing call. Like that wasn't for anything. It looked like Braden Point separated his shoulder, and he got nothing for it. And I understand both guys are jostling, but there's still an element of danger in that when Braden Point's off balance and Morgan Rielly goes in, and Kucherov's a nut. Like he's up 3-2 in the hockey game, and he's jumping in.
Yeah,
like they're losing 7-3.
Yeah,
like there's so many things went on in this game, but listen, that's twice in 2 games. Morgan Rielly, Tavares was a -3, right? $11 million. Morgan Rielly for the second straight game, because Tavares can't string 2 of those games together, because why would you? Rielly has had massive nights. Still defensively, Morgan is what he is. That's not going to really change.
Yeah.
But if he can make up for it on the other end, the Leafs can win playoff series. If you have that type of production from a blue liner, they can beat a lot of teams. And it was one of those, it was playoff. Morgan Rielly looked like the playoffs tonight by the end of that game.
Yeah.
He had things in his nose that weren't supposed to be there naturally. He was like the other team. John Cooper hates his guts. Tanner Jeannot, who like all he wants. I'm convinced Jeannot just wants to show up, and he is Slapshot the movie. He just wants to fight. He just wants to go out. He doesn't care.
That's what they got him for, eh?
They traded 4 first rounders for characters on a Slapshot. That's all he wants to do.
Yeah.
But I got to give Morgan Rielly a lot of credit. I've been hard on Rielly a lot, and I've been well within my rights to. These have been 2 massive performances, and now the Leafs have some really good wiggle room here. I mean, who knows what the city's going to look like if they win Monday night? But we won't focus on that. But I'll let you guys talk about Rielly. I've been really hard on Rielly, but this was strong. This was really strong.
A lot of people have been hard on Rielly because he didn't have the greatest year. You know, it took him I think till January to get his first goal. He was out for a while, and we were using a bunch of Marley's defensemen and doing pretty well with that. And so he got a lot of a flack for it, especially with the new contract. But boy, has he showed up for the playoffs. Like the 4-assist game, last game, but just today, like you said, that was playoff hockey. He made a pretty gnarly hit, but, you know, that's playing hard. I don't think it was malicious. We all know Rielly as a player. He's not doing that maliciously.
Do you guys think it was at least 2, though?
I think it could have been, I think it could have been a 2. I was surprised they gave it a 5. Like I was against that.
Well, I think they only gave that 5 so that they had more time to discuss it, right?
They could review it.
You can review it if you give it a. So now for like anything, you're gonna get a.
Yeah,
guys are gonna get 5 into majors for like walking into the arena chewing bubblegum. They're like, we gotta review it, guys. We gotta look at it.
And they also took so much time to actually figure out what the hell was going on after that. Like at some point, it looked like the Leafs were gonna get on the power play, and then Sheldon Keefe starts chirping at him, and you think that's going the other way. Just pandemonium in that situation. You don't know.
But when they went from 5 to 0, it was like there is no 5-minute major. And we're going to reward him with a free dinner at Denny's.
Yeah, I mean, Rielly was like back in the locker room.
It was a large scale between 5-minute major and...
I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't even know you could go from 5 to 0. I thought it had to go from 5 to just a normal
I've never seen that.
I've never seen that
again,
before either.
Another example that the NHL's fucking making it up as they go along. I had no idea you could do that. I had no idea. You can go from 5 to give the other team the 2 minutes.
Yeah,
brilliant. Just absolute. By the way, how smart is Steven Stamkos in the middle of that scrum?
Just go
when because Steven Stamkos is convinced Kucherov's getting the extra 2.
Yeah,
or he's like fairly certain Kucherov might be getting the extra penalty.
Yeah,
and he grabs Austin Matthews immediately and says, "Your ass is coming with me for this power play." Yeah. And Austin had to defend himself at some point because the ref wasn't going to. Yeah. And I thought Ryan O'Reilly was third man in there for just a second. Got it. That would have been an interesting call. But Stamkos is really smart. Anyway, that's as bizarre melee as you were going to see. Guys getting majors and then like the erasers coming out of the majors like that. And I'm also happy Braden Point came back in the game because I thought he was pretty fucked up. And he still might be.
We're glad that he didn't get injured, obviously. But yeah, that was a weird scrum because they didn't call a penalty. Like the hand didn't go up on the Rielly hit at first. So, when Kucherov came in, the hand went up. So Stamkos must have known that he was getting the extra. And yeah, like you said, really smart move because chances the refs are going to give the Leafs a 5-on-3 for 2 minutes is pretty low. Like they're probably just going to call offsetting for whatever happens after. And if you take Matthews off of that power play, that's huge. Like I don't know if it was intentional or if it was just
it was 100% intentional. Stamkos that's what you do because it happened. What was it earlier? Who on the Leafs was taken off? Who threw the punch early and then was taken off for 2 minutes?
McKay, like last game or this game?
It was either this game or last game. Someone on their side did it. And someone on the Leafs, an important player on the Leafs was taken. Forgive me, my memory's a little.
I think it was Jake McKay when he hit
Jake
Perry. Yeah, when he hit Corey Perry and Corey Perry cocked his head back.
But like that's what smart players do. You got to draw the other guy if he's better. And
also that power play was in shambles. Like without Matthews and Rielly out there. Like
by the way, and as I said it to you guys during the game, I might as well repeat it here on the stream. Sportsnet stats with the number that tonight we saw the first ever fight between 60 goal scorers in NHL history.
Yeah,
that is a very
wild
stat.
It has, and Austin Matthews just commented on the scrap quote, "I've had my fair share of practice scuffles, but he hasn't really been in a fight before," is the quote from 34. So
who's he going at it
practice scuffle
in the Leafs? Yeah,
maybe he got some lessons from Simmer.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I know Simmer was given some pointers to, I forgot who it was. It must have been a Marlies player. Justin Holl. Yeah, Justin Holl, our producer just said, yeah. And yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if he was giving everyone pointers.
Yeah, I think Holl definitely needs some more pointers because there's been a couple times where I'm like, dude, you're a big dude. At least stand up. He just falls down the moment he gets in. I kind of
based on what we saw tonight, he now draws penalties. He drew two penalties tonight, Justin Holl. Looked like Bobby Orr in the first one. Yeah,
he negated 2 penalty kills. Yeah, with he had a good game, honestly. Like
he did.
That was one of the weirdest great Justin Holl games I've ever seen.
Yeah, like
it was strange.
It was really surprising when everyone else on the team was kind of shit. So.
And that was surprising because it was also in that I believe it was in the second period where he drew one and the other one was in the first. So in a period where and the Leafs were actually on the penalty kill, I believe, in that moment. They were on the penalty kill, and then Holl takes a penalty. He redraws a penalty, and it turns into a 4-4, and the Leafs have been pretty good 4-4 thus far in the season, right? So good on him. It was nice to see him finally like making some kind of impact after a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird game. It was definitely a weird game, but you know, these are not games the Leafs win historically. They just do not, they don't do this. This was very difficult. They were up against it for prolonged stretches. The space to get frustrated was large. That's a team that knows what they're doing on the other side, and were pissed off after the Rielly hit on top of it.
Yeah.
This game, like realistically, we were talking about it as well. That third period where Ryan O'Reilly scores and ties it up, in no world were any of us thinking that this was getting tied up. They were getting outshot. They were getting controlled, and it carried through in OT a little bit there too. It just seemed like Tampa was just doing such a good job of controlling the play, controlling the pucks, and the Leafs just could not do anything in that transition at all. Like, even if Tampa wasn't getting any shots on, they were just controlling the play through and through, right?
It wasn't really until the last 2 or 3 minutes where the Leafs actually managed to enter the zone and get some chances. Yeah, the transition game from, I would say, the start of the second up until the last 2 minutes of the third was horrible. And it sort of reverted to game 1 where we could not exit the zone. We could not enter their zone. The Lightning were just absolutely pressuring the shit out of our puck carriers, and we were just dumping it and icing it every single time. And it was,
I got it. Like, it's going 7. I'm so fucking sorry. It's going 7. Like, the Leafs are better than last year. The Bolts are a little worse. That still means they're like this though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where we were at. We were there at the beginning. First 2 games didn't feel like they were even. They've kind of been even the whole time in a weird way. They exchanged blowouts, and tonight was what it was. Like, everyone brace, get the muscle memory, pull it out from the drawer where you've been saving it since last spring, and get used to it.
Yep.
Because this is going to be super fucked up again. The Leafs are not winning 2 straight games. They're not.
Yep.
Because Tampa's like, the one thing I don't like about the Rielly hit is, like, I hate giving a team that seems like, you know, they're not as hungry as they used to be reasons to be hungry.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Room. Yeah.
I don't like that. And under no circumstances was Morgan Rielly thinking that. I don't think it was like, I don't think he meant to put his shoulder into row 3 like that, but it happened, and you saw the reaction of Cooper in that bench. And by the way, CBC, Sportsnet, we heard everything that was said between the benches. Everything. Okay?
Yeah, the hot mics were very hot.
Don't act like we can't mic players anymore. Don't act like it's there's a 10-year-old somewhere in Canada who heard fuck like 9 straight times. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Spaces.
If we're going to that microphone, it's a lot of F words.
Yeah.
And maybe some other things. like the person you're dating. Like your mom.
Did you hear the Matthew Tkachuk?
The Matthew Tkachuk one was brutal.
Yeah.
But if you ask NHL players, is standard fare at times on the ice.
100%.
And listen, I've never been on an NHL ice surface. I don't know what gets said on a consistent basis. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. But let's not act like we can't have mics on everyone going forward, because that's ridiculous. I learned swear words tonight, just courtesy of our national. You know what? Do not defund the CBC, because that was amazing. Never defund the CBC, because I want to hear the F-bombs. Tanner Jeannot is like, I don't know what planet he's from, but I love him. He just wants to fight all the time.
Every time,
fight you all the time. But listen, the Leafs got in their kitchen a little bit. I can't help but think, I don't know if you guys agree with this. When the Rielly hit happened, like you saw it with Kucherov within 0.5 seconds.
Yeah.
They got super distracted. Like, they were not the same team in the third they were in the second.
Yeah.
And
I do agree with that, yeah.
Go ahead. Am I wrong in that? Like, do you think that played a role?
I do think it played a role, but I wouldn't say they like exactly You know, the Lightning, I think, still controlled a large portion of play
No, you're right.
for the third period.
But it wasn't like the second. It wasn't
they
like
weren't
the second.
nearly as dangerous.
No.
It was far and few between. I think they started playing more of a shutdown role, you know, in terms of just like not pushing the.
You know what? There was a little prevent defense going on. Like, yeah. I think it's a really good point because there was a moment there where it was with 5 minutes to go. I'm like, oh, the Leafs have the puck a lot. This is weird.
Yeah. We got a lot more possession. Yeah.
Since the first 10 minutes of the game. Like it was odd what they were doing. But I'll say this though. One of the most dangerous things I heard all night. And if I'm a Leaf fan, enjoy this. This is a hell of a win. This is a win that shouldn't have happened. Take it.
Yeah.
Take it. John Tavares with one of the quotes of the night about the Matthews fight.
Yeah.
Ready for this?
Yeah.
All right. Let us hear it.
Producer Robert already saw it. This is quote. Poppy's gonna stand his ground. End quote.
He called him
you know
Poppy.
I love it. I love it. I love the Poppy nicknames. That's great.
John Tavares
said Poppy.
But like picture like Poppy's gonna stand his ground.
That's a great impression.
Poppy's gonna stand his ground, and we're gonna learn from it, and we're gonna learn from Poppy.
You know, exactly he said it in a robotic voice too. Yeah.
Sorry, I got Luke Fox on Twitter in my notifications, and this is some of the stuff that's coming down is really good. By the way, I'll let you guys have first crack at this. Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Ryan O'Reilly's night for a second? On a night where like three other guys were going.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I was gonna say this as well with your Game 7 take. This is going to 7. There are two things that I think will play a factor into this. And it's Ryan O'Reilly, who's got like 53 points in 54 playoff games in his like last 54, who's absolutely clutch. He was so good, and Matthew Knies as well, but we'll get to that later. And then also Vazzy. You know, Vazzy, after a playoff loss before this game, was 21-2, 1.88 goals against average, 931 save percentage with 5 shutouts. He didn't look that good today. And he hasn't looked that good this series. So that's one thing. But in terms of Ryan O'Reilly, I think just the amount of depth he brings to that center lineup is unparalleled. You know, you saw Cooper after game 2 talk about how you take points, Rielly and Paul against anybody. And it's like, no, dude, Ryan O'Reilly adds so much to this roster that I think it's so difficult for the matchup game to actually work on the Lightning side. You know, they had home ice advantage, and I still think like they struggled to match with O'Reilly just because they were matching up with Matthews and the Tavares line, and they absolutely neutralized both of them. But the Ryan O'Reilly line, I think, still was strong, which is a lot to say when everyone else wasn't.
Yeah, I think that him being matched up beside Matthew Knies, I feel like there's just such a good fit right now. They played such little games together, and they're just meshing really, really well. We'll talk a little bit more about Knies in just a bit, but yeah, that line by far was looking like a great and one of the top lines out there today, right? Another person that I thought would play a big factor for Tampa though, Victor Hedman. I mean, he came back today. He was injured and he sat out game 2. And there's a lot of reports saying that he's at like 25% of his effectiveness. He did not look it at all. The presence that he brings on the ice is insane. Him playing just on defense, playing up in the O zone for in the Leafs zone. He is just dominating. Like there needs to be like 2 players on him at all times. And despite him being injured, I mean, I think that was a huge factor in why this game looked drastically different from the second game. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, was it the second? I forget which intermission. Well, let me just say this, because Derek Lalonde of the Red Wings and a longtime assistant with the Tampa Bay Lightning is taking. I'm getting like a text tonight about Derek Lalonde on the Hockey Night in Canada panel. Honestly, 2 things. One, I don't fucking run the panel. Is the first thing. People think I run like things at Rogers. I'm a soldier. I don't do anything. Okay. Secondly, I think he's kind of really good. Like, I know he's not Mr. Personality on the desk, but he's coming with things, and he knows Tampa really well. And tonight, this is the one thing I want to say to Leaf fans who are calling Leafs in 5 right now, and you know they're out there.
Yeah, that was my prediction, by the way.
Was that your prediction?
Yeah, that was my prediction.
I said Leafs in 6.
Well.
I was you. I had Leafs in 6. I go Leafs in 5. That's bold, but still alive. But Ron McLean turned to Derek Lalonde in one of the intermissions and said, how does Hedman look to you?
Yeah.
80%, 85%, and Lalonde said he looks 100% to me. And that's a guy who has seen him on airplanes for like years, on the ice for morning skates, in practices, in the weight room. Lalonde has had a front row seat to this Hall of Fame career. Yeah. Front row seat. And we all saw that tonight. Hedman he's at his best when he just looks really comfortable.
Yeah.
And he played 32 minutes tonight. Sergachev led everyone. Sergachev played 37 minutes, 27
Which is
seconds.
Insane. Wow.
But like, he's good.
Yeah.
Damn, he's good. Who did the Habs trade for him again?
For Sergachev? Was it Drouin?
It was Drouin.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I had to think about that for a second. That's cute, that trade. 37 minutes for Sergachev tonight. And Hedman looked great. I'm just saying, if Hedman still looks like this, I can guarantee you they're winning Monday. Hedman is he controlled most of that game. It wasn't like, I didn't think Tampa's forwards were like over the top good.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. Like, Cirelli was kind of in and out for me, and I love Cirelli. I noticed Hedman all the time. I know Sergachev all the time. And that's where the Leafs really killed them the other night.
Yeah.
They're like, Tampa on their power play had no breakout.
Yeah.
Absolutely none in Toronto in game 2. Yeah. Tonight was different. And they carried a lot of that play throughout the game. But for all the Leaf fans that are like, all right, we got him. The guy who knows Victor Hedman better than anyone else on that Hockey Night panel tonight says he's basically 100%.
Yeah.
This series is far, far from over. It's
for those who don't know, Lalonde was the assistant coach for Tampa for quite a while, and now is head coach of Detroit. But yeah, even just having Hedman on the roster to give Sergachev a little more room, to shelter him a little more so that he's not taking those top pairing minutes, and you can play the matchup game so much easier. And I was also one of those people that was anticipating Hedman to not be at 100%, you know, because he didn't even go to warmups last game. Like, I thought he was still harboring something, and he probably is, but it doesn't show. It doesn't show. Whatever is ailing him, he is masking it. He is just completely doing everything right. Yeah, like compensating for whatever is ailing him perfectly, because it did not show at all. He was excellent, and I thought he was playing pretty much all of his minutes. We had so much trouble entering the zone. And, the Lightning forwards, like you said, they weren't necessarily particularly dynamic on offense, but I thought they did such a good job helping their defensemen out. And that's something that I think the Leafs really struggled with tonight.
I thought they were better in OT. I thought they were
definitely better in OT.
Because there was a few shifts where it's like Tavares is back, and I thought Matthews had a sneaky good game tonight. I thought, like, he wasn't the star, but
I agree.
That tip. We haven't talked about the goal from Marner.
Yeah,
Marner's fucking falling.
Yeah,
I don't know how he gets that snipe off.
He put everything
Matthews
into that shot.
Taking legit punishment in front of the net, and that's one of the nicer Marner to Matthews I've seen. Like, that was pretty good. That was pretty nice.
After seeing that, like, we saw Marner get in that first goal and open it up in game 2 with a slapper as well. And this guy, while falling, like you said, getting another great slapper off, and Matthews, like, I don't know how he had the reaction speed to actually tip that, but Marner has a slap shot. I mean, there's no two ways about it. This guy has it in his arsenal, and it's such a big impact, right? That's why in OT, I actually thought that if I had to put my money on it, Marner would be my goal for winning it for us. I think it's just a huge thing that adds so much more depth, like to the way that the Leafs can employ him, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
does Bunting get back in this lineup or not?
Oh, I saw your tweet. I saw your tweet about this when this happened. As soon as this happened, I think you tweeted saying that this is the last time that we see Bunting in a Leaf sweater.
Let's
Well,
start with
let's get into Nyes then, because
yeah,
I
let's
think
get into Nyes.
the two are
go hand in hand.
Yeah, they're Instagram official, these stories. They're together.
Yeah. Nyes is excellent to me. He made one mistake in the first period where he managed to, you know, from a skill perspective,
he was also trailing. He was the guy on Radish on the goal around, like,
he was, and then he let him go for I think who was it, McCabe? I think
McCabe's the one that laid a hit, and then
he laid a hit and then just couldn't get back.
In their defense, because BXO was making the point in the intermission, off the face-off, it's chaos city.
Yeah,
it can be a little chaotic in terms of man matchups, but
yeah, I agree.
Nyes is he's better than everyone on the fourth line.
Yeah.
He's better than Kerfoot. And there are moments he's better than Yarncroc. Like right now, less than 10 games into his National Hockey League career, you can make the argument he's there. He's in the middle of the pack in terms of the best forward Sheldon Keefe has.
I mean, you saw it in the assist in the first goal. Like, that was a really nice assist to pass to the trailer in Achari.
I got a couple of quotes coming in, guys. Do you want to hear them?
Yeah,
just
go for
a few. Forgive me. Morgan Rielly on the hit from On Point. Quote, "I thought the play was clean." So not a shock that Morgan Rielly thought the play was clean. Luke Fox is also saying that Sheldon Keefe said Tampa manipulated the situation with the Matthews fight, dragging him to the box. Argues Toronto, and you could read, if you like, I'm an amateur lip reader, you could figure out why Sheldon was so upset.
Yeah,
he thought they should have had the 5-on-3.
They should have had the 5-on-3.
And I think he's right. Yes,
if they determined that the Rielly hit was clean, Stamkos 100% should have got the extra.
And if it was completely manipulated by Stamkos on the other side of it, yes.
Yeah. Like,
probably Matthews should have a 5-on-3.
Matthews didn't even have his gloves off before punches were being thrown. Like, that is not a situation where you have any choice. You have to fight back or you get your face kicked in.
I still believe, call me crazy, if I see 34 starting to fight, I got to get in there and stop it.
Yeah, 100%.
I got to stop it. He's a 6-goal guy. And O'Reilly I think O'Reilly stopped. Or did somebody I forget if someone grabbed O'Reilly or O'Reilly stopped on his own because he didn't want to be third man.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, that would get you suspended.
But someone's like Marner's right there. Like, Marner's not doing anything. Like, someone's got to stop. 34 can't be doing that. Yeah. The Leafs cannot let Stamkos sucker them into that kind of spot. It was effortless from Stamkos. All he did was just keep punching him in the face. It was like with the Sedins back in the day, and when they're taking on the Bruins, just punch, and nothing happens. Anyway, that's my only issue. Sorry, go ahead. That's my only issue. Someone needs to stop Matthews from doing that.
I 100% agree. Yeah. And like, what I was going to say is, like, the Leafs also should know that the refs are not calling that 5-on-3. Like, they have to know that. They have to know that.
I don't know. Sheldon Keefe sure looked like a guy who thought they were going to call a 5-on-3.
Yeah, I mean, they should have, but it's just not going to happen. Like, knowing NHL officiating, knowing where we were at that point of the game, like, it was a 1-goal game. I don't think I didn't expect them to call it, even though I think they should have. But it is what it is. But back to Nyes. He made that one error. In my opinion, right at the blue line, at our own defensive blue line, where he managed to steal the puck, but then stick handled a little too long in the first period, and that was it. He was so dynamic offensively.
He was great.
He was very skillful in his stick handling. His skating is amazing. The way he protects the puck is insanely good. He got a promotion, I think, to the second line at one point in the game during the second period, if I'm not mistaken, and Kerfoot got dropped to that Ryan O'Reilly line. And I'm not even sure if I like that per se, just because him with Ryan O'Reilly works so damn well.
I think they were just trying to get something going in that second line.
We'll get into the second line as well. But in terms of Bunting, like, my question is, okay, he doesn't beat out Nyes, but is he a top 12 forward on this team?
Yeah, but here's my issue with that.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, producer Robert, correct me if I'm wrong here, but at last check, Michael Bunting has drawn the most penalties and committed the most penalties in the National Hockey League. I believe that's the stat.
Yeah, or at least he's up there.
I certainly
for
wouldn't
sure.
be surprised.
Yeah,
Like he is intent on being, he's intent on trending online.
Yeah.
Like he wakes up in the morning and says, I'm the bump man and I'm going to trend online today and I'm going to try and lose more money in free agency. That's why Michael Bunting goes to work. If that guy's pulling that garbage as a fourth liner, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, it can't be a Kyle Clifford situation where you're getting a major.
And in a series where we've already seen the Leafs take 8 penalties in a game and we saw how that turned out.
Yeah.
Like, do you, and it seems like I know every night the refs are against the Leafs because some Leaf fans are complete idiots. That's not the game I saw tonight. I saw the Leafs get away with some stuff tonight.
Yep, they certainly did.
And right now, this is the first time in a while I've seen Toronto kind of good with the refs.
Yeah.
Things are good. Things are okay. Don't have to worry about Bunting being singled out from every scrum.
Yeah,
Don't need Caldubas calling league officials or the series official. Like, I just feel like right now you're in a good place with the men in stripes. So don't bring in the F4 tornado to just kick up bullshit because he doesn't fight.
Yeah.
He hasn't scored a bunch lately. Like, what is he actually doing for you?
Yeah.
So I personally think there's a lot of reasons that Michael Bunting needs to watch for the rest of this series. And we'll see against Florida in the next round if he's available.
Not the Bruins.
But Panthers aren't out of that series yet. They're not out of that series yet.
They're actually doing pretty. They're doing much better than I thought they would.
I'm just saying, Bergeron's not playing. They're not out of it yet. Yeah. Okay, Michael Bunting is a net neutral on penalties. Producer Rob is telling me. But he's all around it. Is kind of my point. And
exactly.
Again, I saw a Leaf team tonight getting calls. Don't fuck with that.
Yeah,
don't fuck with that because one guy's going to mess with that, and you know who it is, and he's not worth it. I know he's from Scarborough. Congratulations. I'm from Mississauga. No one's giving me an AHL contract. Okay, lots of people from the GTA. Jesus Christ! One guy from the GTA comes in, all of a sudden it's a lead every fucking day. Relax.
It is.
I don't care where he's from. Can he win a cup? Perfect. That's the guy you want.
I think, but if you look at it, right, the Leafs, especially in that second, and we talked about in the third and OT, right, we weren't in control of the game, right? Now, let's say if you slot Bunting in instead of, let's say, Yarncroc in that first line, right, does that maybe get them going? Let's say if you take out Kerfoot, you want to keep Yarncroc up in that top line and put Bunting in there with Tavares and Nylander. We talked about how the second line, or we will talk about the second line looked abysmal today. Maybe that gets something going, right? Keefe, I think he probably threw Nyes in there into that second line to try to kickstart something.
Who do you take out? That's the thing. Like, who do you
don't take out Nyes? That's for sure.
You don't take out Nyes, but then like Achari, I don't think you take out. I don't think you can even take out like Zach Aston. Like that fourth line is
you take out Kerfoot or
what's Kerfoot? Someone explain to me Kerfoot.
I agree. Kerfoot's the
Someone
one guy.
Explain to me Kerfoot.
He's the reason I think
jack
they keep
of all
Kerfoot,
trades, the master of none.
Yeah, is really they couldn't just move him around anywhere, and that's why he's like on the roster. And you could put him on the PK, you could put him on the power play, and he will survive.
If he will survive, to me, this is the type of game where I know you won, but you could pull a guy or two from this line.
Yeah,
like this was a strange hockey game for Keefe because Keefe's never going to be very tempted. Keefe's going to look at the tape and hate what he sees for the most part.
Yep.
And it's rare after a playoff win do you want to mess with things, but like I could see it because there was that second line, and I'm going to give William Nylander credit, a guy I've often criticized as well down through the years. Again, just when he needs to make a big play in the playoffs, he's making a big play.
He is their most clutch.
Throw it at the net. The Leafs learned some things today. Throw it at the net. Throw it at the net because Ryan O'Reilly might be there. Throw it at the net, Morgan, because Vasilevsky. By the way, I love that tonight was very interesting because I've heard all year. I haven't watched every Tampa game for obvious reasons, but I've seen the stats and it's like Tampa doesn't look right. I keep hearing from a lot of people I trust. Tampa doesn't look right. Now, one person in that analysis has said Vasilevsky's not as good.
Yeah.
tonight I saw Vasilevsky's not as good.
Yeah,
It's not just everyone else. It's like the Emperor has some clothes, but less clothes than he used to have.
Yeah, well, when you're ending off the season in their last month going 50-50, right? You're going to be letting in some goals. So,
but how many Vasilevsky rips did you have? Or did you hear?
Not
I
many.
heard none.
Yeah.
I heard, you know what? Maybe Hedman's getting tired. Maybe this, maybe that. Stamkos
injuries
is
a huge thing.
I'm like, but never did I hear Vasilevsky's name come up. Never did I hear an analyst go, you know what? He's struggling. They don't trust him. They're not sure if he has enough left in the tank. And what I saw tonight was, oh, okay, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Because he really wasn't that busy in terms of like four periods of hockey terms. He wasn't. So the Leafs there's a crack here that hasn't been available in the Eastern Conference since, not since LeBron in an Eastern Conference have I seen a guy dominate the Eastern Conference of any league like this. And now it looks like there's some cracks in the armor. And you saw one right at the end from Morgan Rielly, a literal crack. And it just, that's a bad goal to let up, man. That's a bad goal.
And before the broadcast,
that whole team has believed in him for years. For years. They play free like that. Why? Because they have a monster in the crease who they trust with their lives.
Yeah. I think it was John Cooper that mentioned.
Now what do they do?
I think it was John Cooper after that second game. He mentioned that the reason why they didn't pull Vasi was because Vasi wanted to be there.
He wanted to stay
what
there,
Vasi wants to do. Yeah.
Well, Vasi might not be calling every shot. Listen, they're not going to pull him for Brian Elliott. I'm not an idiot. But
you got been like a 7-2 game. The thing is, he's got a lot of miles on him right now, like with the amount of hockey he's played. And, even before the broadcast, they were talking about how good he is, after following a playoff loss. And he just didn't have a good game. And
I mean, I think like the goals that they scored, they were all down low. It's not like I don't want to completely misrepresent his night. That last one though, is something like when you've had this much belief in your guy and that's how your night ends. That's interesting, man. Hedman's doing everything he can. He looks like Hedman. He's not 100%, but he looks like Hedman.
Yeah.
Braden Point doesn't have to come back in that hockey game.
Yeah.
But he does.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends. This is the most intriguing John Cooper in the dressing room moment he's had since the Columbus sweep. Very long time. John Cooper's going to look at this room that he loves and figure out how to push a couple different buttons because some belief is seeping out. No question about it. Because the Leafs, they just let the Leafs off the hook. And they know it, and we all know it. And I'm not saying the Leafs didn't listen. The Leafs did some good things tonight too. Don't get me wrong. A win is a win. There are moments when you win 16 games to win the Stanley Cup, you got to have a couple of these. Period. There's nothing wrong with what the Leafs just did tonight. Nothing. But the Vasilevsky thing, I find very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes going forward. It's still a wide open game. Or series, I should say. We're up only 2-1, and like you said, today was a tough win. We eked out this win, right? Do I think Vasi is gonna stay looking like this throughout the whole series? I don't know, honestly. Historically speaking, he's been playing great, right? And I understand the last month he hasn't been having the best time, and also the last couple of games he hasn't been having the best time, but it still is Vasi. He's still the best goaltender in the league, right? If I had to put my money on it, I would say he bounces back. Yeah.
I mean,
well, I thought he'd bounce back tonight though.
I thought so too. And
I'm first game in Tampa. Yeah.
It's a 7-game series potentially, and I'm not going to expect this performance again from him in game 4 per se, but I won't be surprised if he's not the same Vasi as the past 3 years. It's just the amount of miles on him it's a lot. And
look, last two games, 11 goals.
Yeah,
11 goals.
Yeah, even the first game, 3 goals against is they dominated that game, but it's still
not all were on him. Right? Ryan O'Reilly with 30 seconds, whenever it was left. That's not really him.
That's not him at all.
He might not have liked it. It went through him.
Yeah,
but that's still Like defensemen got to do their job. So we'll see. We'll see
And
how
like
it plays
even
out.
if all the goals aren't on you per se, like we've talked about this with Leaf goalies before in previous series, is you just have to be the better goalie than the other guy, you know? And like for example, like Jack Campbell was great last series, but he was worse than Vazzy, you know?
Yeah.
And like Anderson had some great games, but he was always the worst goalie. And today, Samsonov beat Vazzy. Like Samsonov was excellent. He kept us in this game. We could have lost so easily if we got average goaltending today, but we didn't. And Vazzy stole one. I mean, not Vazzy. Samsonov stole one.
He looked like Vasilevsky.
He looked like Vazzy. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an easy mistake to make. But yeah,
He
like
did.
that. Yeah.
And what's Vassy's record after a loss in the playoffs? Is it still 14?
It was 21 and since 2020
before
it
this
was
game.
21 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Now
is a
21
shocking
points.
result. This is a shocking result.
Yeah,
Like,
especially for how good Tampa played. Like, it's not even
Yeah.
like a situation where it was like team was shit in front of him. Like, Tampa played well, and it's not necessarily Vazzy's fault, but it was shocking to me the goals. The amount of goals we got on such few shots.
But
Like to me, it's today's about Samsonov and O'Reilly. It's not
100%.
with respect
Clutch
to
performances.
everyone else. Those are your leads. Like I know everyone's going to talk about the Rielly hit and blah 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 and the fight, and like the fight's cute, but it's irrelevant. Like Ryan O'Reilly was brought in here for a reason, and the reason was he had to be the adult in the room, quite frankly, filled with highly paid immature hockey players.
Yeah.
And I think what you're seeing is him like, it's tough because he hasn't been around for a while, so he can't really take control the way he wants to because he's a respectful pro.
Yeah.
So he just says, like, again, we don't know what's being said behind the scenes, but in terms of what we saw tonight, he said, fuck it. And I'm scoring, we're going to OT, and I'm going to win this face off and bring it back to Rielly. And it's 2-1. Now, the one thing that's dawning on me here is, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, the Leafs have had a lead in a series against Tampa before, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just trying to remember how that went. So there's a long way to go here.
Yeah, there is
a long way to go. And I think I'd like to think Leaf fans are realistic enough to know what they saw tonight, which was a bit of fortune.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's about it's the results. That's why I puked at the John Tavares love after the hat trick in game 2. I knew tonight was coming. I knew a -3 was coming tonight because John Tavares is the most inconsistent $11 million hockey player in the history of the league. So you got to be realistic of what's happening here. By the way, did I mention John Tavares was -3 tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Let's get into that for a second because I do want to talk about that. But
I'd love to talk about this.
First, the one thing I wanted to say about Ryan O'Reilly before we move on is we have had leaders on this team before, even guys we got at the trade deadline, like Nick Foligno or whatever. We've never had a leader lead by example quite as well as Ryan O'Reilly has. We've had captains in the room. Yeah, Spezza withstanding, but he's just a legend. But we've had captains, like former captains.
He hardly played. What do you mean he's a legend? He hardly played.
He's a legend. I will not take Spezza slander.
No, we're not doing this.
Do you remember the speech that he gave?
We're not doing this.
I love
speech. The speech, yes, the speech no one heard. Yes,
I agree.
The speech none of us heard. I remember that speech. Yes,
I will not even. Yeah, no. Spezza.
Yes,
you heard the story of the speech.
But yeah,
I love Jason Spezza. I want to be clear on this. When he left town, he was Mark Messier. Okay, everyone needs to relax on the Spezza era. It was ridiculous how he was played up. It was ridiculous. He hardly played, man.
Anyway. He didn't have a lot of minutes, but he had big moments, I will say. But anyways, besides the point, Ryan O'Reilly, just the level of play he brings. Like, you could have Joe Thornton talking all you want in the room, but he wasn't good for us. He wasn't good for us. At least after the first 12 games where he was like a point per game player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that is not only just a voice in the room, but he is a player that leads by example, and he makes everyone around him better. Like, I'm not surprised that Matthew Nyes transitioned so easily with a center like Ryan O'Reilly with him. He is a pro, defensively responsible, and all that. But let's get into the Tavares talk, because I do want to talk about Tavares and just that second line in general. To me, that second line was horrible defensively. They did not help their defenders out at all. They got caught, like, I think it was in the second period, I want to say, they got caught on like a minute shift in their own D zone, and the defenders were out there for like a minute and a half. And I think it was Brody and McCabe were working their butts off to win puck battles, like really working hard to get puck battles. And I'm not going to give them a ton of credit, because once they won the puck battle, it was like a giveaway and we just couldn't get anything done. But I saw Tavares and I saw Nylander floating and like, I'm not someone who actually like dogs on Tavares or Nylander. I love both of them as players, but it was really frustrating to see. It was really frustrating to watch in a playoff game. There was one point where a puck was coming up along the half wall very slowly, and Nylander just waited for it, and it got taken. And that's the one where he probably could have gotten a penalty called against him after he sort of, it was a stick lift, but it could have been called a hook, depending on the ref. But he just lets the Lightning player kind of get ahead of him because he's waiting for the puck. And I was really furious at that, because it's like, you are such a dynamic player. You are like, even Tavares, I think he's a very dynamic player, but sometimes defensively, they just look awful. They look disengaged defensively. And that's what I hate to see. You know, like with the Matthews line, if they're not scoring, they are still so valuable in their own end. Like, they're just, Matthews and Marner are phenomenal.
Matthews has changed his game up a lot. Like, he's
exactly
a different player. Like, you need him on the other side now as much as, like, that's why I hated the, you didn't hear a lot, but it was like, oh, Matthews' numbers are down. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, the guy's in his own end every shift.
Yeah, like
he's working. Like, he's actually he's working for the team. He's a team player. For a guy who has an incredible ego, which he should, he is sacrificing for his team. Yeah. And I hated the narrative. But I don't see that with Tavares. I got to be honest with you. I saw a little late tonight, but it's very rare. Like, very rare where honestly, Tavares is doing both like that.
I love Tavares. I think he's excellent for the team. And I know, like, even this season, there were people who were like, oh, it's not the same Tavares. And I understand he's getting $11 million, and he's probably not worth that right now. But, like, for example, game 2, I thought he was excellent. Today, though, like, you have to call out your players when they're not engaged defensively, because that's the biggest, you know, that's a huge deal. You know, if you have Ryan O'Reilly on the third line, Matthews on the first line, Kampf on the fourth line, you know, those are all 3 very defensively minded centers, even though they have like some offensive upside, at least in Matthews and Ryan O'Reilly's case. Tavares is the odd man out in terms of how defensively minded he is. His numbers aren't very good defensively, and they haven't been in his career. And then you strap a guy like Nylander onto him, and they're both individually great players, but Nylander's numbers aren't that great defensively. You create
but at least Nylander will pop up like he did tonight.
Yeah, like he'll show up in clutch moments. But I also think Tavares will as well.
No, I'm with you, but like, I'm getting used to that with Willie. Like, I'm kind of expecting that, like a quiet game, goal 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. They're both like that. They're both insanely like clutch players to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like having that hole in your lineup where like you have, especially going into Tampa, where you don't control the matchup game. That like scared me a lot throughout the game, especially in that second period.
It's a valid point. That line got served tonight.
Yeah, they got absolutely served. And they got hemmed in their own zone multiple times that they couldn't break out, because it just, I didn't see a lot of defensive effort, or at least not necessarily effort. I know they're trying out there, but defensive awareness. They didn't know where the trailer was. Like, even on that first goal that Tampa scored, if I'm not mistaken, it was Nylander. Let me pull this up. Yeah, Rielly comes in, but Nylander was unable to catch Rielly once he hit the blue line. Like, I don't know if he didn't know he was behind there. You know, I understand that Rielly overcommitted on that.
And a lot of guys can't catch Rielly when he's in flight at times.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I know your point. I understand your point.
Like, it just, like, that stuff really irks me in a playoff game. Like, you really need to dig in and figure it out.
Strong take. I like it. Do we have another strong take coming on Tavares?
Harnish?
I think he's one of those guys where I think he's due for another big game in game 4, right? he's going to have these kind of off games here and there. We saw how he plays last game. We saw how he played throughout the season. He's a guy that people love to criticize, and rightfully so. When he's not playing good, he's really a liability out there. But when he is playing up to his potential, and when he does have his stride under him, I think he's going to nail it, right? That the second line, we've saw like throughout the regular season, there's been many times where they've been the best line that the Leafs had. Especially with Matthews struggling a little bit with his hand injury, right? So they had to pick up the slack, right? Willie, there's a reason why I think he matched Matthews, and I think he matched Matthews in terms of goals as well this season, right? So I think that it's a bad game, yes, but do I think this is going to be the norm? No, not at all. I think Tavares is going to bounce back. Same with Willie. He's gonna have another big night. It just depends on, a lot of this is just how you're playing in the moment, right? You saw the first game, you lost 7-3. The second game, you won 7-2. People have bad nights, right?
I mean,
they're going to bounce back, I think.
I agree. It's just in Tampa, it's a whole different game when you have the matchup advantage. You know, like I would be putting out the Stamkos line every time the Tavares line is out.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can abuse that with Point, Stamkos, and Kucherov out there. Like, you know, those are dynamic players.
I'm with you. Like I think the funny part is with Kerfoot on that line, that's an expensive line.
Kerfoot's
that's a pretty expensive
story altogether.
Second line. Like you have $3.5 million on the wing. With Nylander, that's pretty. I just do the math on that line compared to some other lines. You'll laugh for like an hour.
And like honestly, like I like both those players. Like I'm not even gonna like trash them for their overall play. I think they are excellent players.
But I think John's, but like you said, John's a dynamic player. Yeah. I when I think dynamic player, I do not think about John Tavares. Like with respect, I think
honestly, it's fair.
He is slow. He's slow. I was going to swear on the end of that. I didn't have to. He's slow.
Yeah.
And here's my problem with this city about John Tavares. Because after that hat trick the other night, like the shit I got was ridiculous. Ridiculous. And by the way, his first shift the other night, he had 2 giveaways on that shift. Go back and watch it. Go back and watch the opening of that game from John Tavares the other night. It was ridiculous. He was a fourth liner, even pulled for the rest of the first period. Because the Toronto kid came home, he is above criticism. Because the Toronto kid, the big free agent that basically no Toronto sports team ever gets in any sport, not in the NBA, not in Major League Baseball. We actually the sport we get the most is soccer. Of all sports in this city. So finally to have Tavares that summer, the Leafs beat out San Jose. They beat out, I forget who else was in there. The Islanders put in an offer. For the Leafs, Montreal, for the Leafs to beat out everyone and for the hometown kid. Honestly, the worst thing that ever happened to the Leafs was that fucking photo of John in his bed with the covers. I'm telling you. Because fans see that. Toronto fans want one thing. Be here and love this team the way we love this team. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's how Wendell Clark becomes a legend. That's how JYD becomes a legend. That's how Josh Donaldson becomes a legend.
Yeah.
Players who give you the feeling they love this team the way you love this team. And because of that, John Tavares can do anything he wants in this city and doesn't get criticized.
I think it's the opposite. I feel like
that is not
criticized quite a bit.
But my ass is out there criticizing John Tavares right now. Give me a name and an address. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it because after he scored 3 goals from 5 feet out of the crease the other night, he was Mike Bossy.
It's because he's the captain, right? He's a whole.
I think he's. I don't give a shit if he's the captain. I don't care if he's the captain. Hey, Poppy's going to stand his ground. I don't care if he's the captain.
I do think. Okay,
they're trying to win a cup. I don't give a fuck who wants the captaincy. I don't give a shit who was in their Leafs pajamas when they were 9. This is about winning the cup. And if you have an $11 million player who turns around off that performance the other night where he's laughing at Corey Perry, who, by the way, has won a Hart Trophy, something Tavares will never see in his life, or potentially a cup, for him to chuckle at Corey Perry, which I found amazing, and for him to show up tonight and no show as a captain is ridiculous because this city won't call him out.
Well,
that's my problem.
That's
my problem.
He gets a fair amount of criticism. And I'm not saying that it's like, I'm just saying.
When's the last time you guys talk shit about John Tavares?
We have, though.
There's been a couple.
Really?
There's been a few times because, you know, like half of his goals this year are on the power play. Like he, even strength wise, he hasn't been that solid.
He had one even strength fucking goal since
for like
March 1st before game 2.
Exactly.
March 1st.
And I think at least like the stats portion of the Leafs fandom has noticed some poor play within Tavares. And I think it's fair to state
adorable that they've noticed. Adorable.
I think it's fair to state that. And I think it's fair to understand where he is in his career, you know? And obviously that's not $11 million worth at this point.
But he's also not he's not a $2 million player either. There are expectations here. There are expectations. Like you can't. There are
expectations. I understand.
If you're a second line center in the National Hockey League, there's things that you need to give the Leafs if they're going to win a cup.
But
and that tonight was not it. When he's a front runner the other fucking night, congratulations. Yeah, a lot of fun. Everyone's having a good time the other night. That game was over the first 10 minutes. Yes, good time. Keep chuckling at the Hart Trophy winner. Keep chuckling at him. See how far that gets
I think it's fine to chuckle at Perry. I actually love that. That's like just laughing at what Perry getting kicked out. I like that as a captain. To me, that shows that you're like.
Let's match up how many playoff series Corey Perry's won and how many playoff series John Tavares has won. Let's see who's laughing then. Let's see who's laughing then.
I understand that. And he has.
When you're stuck in the Islanders and then Toronto.
He does have something to prove. But in my opinion, why should Tavares respect Perry in that situation? You know, like.
Because it's something a front runner does. A front runner will laugh at a Stanley Cup winner and a Hart Trophy winner when things are going well. Wasn't laughing tonight, was he?
No, he wasn't laughing.
And he was lucky that he got bailed out by his guys. He wasn't laughing at anybody.
I agree.
I'm just saying he's not above criticism.
He isn't above criticism. I think
and there's a part of this fan base that thinks he's like their cousin that they love.
Yeah.
Because he once had Leaf pajamas.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I don't get it. They need so much more from him. It's scary. It's scary. They don't need a power play specialist. They need someone to drive a line when it's hard.
Yeah, and I agree.
It's difficult.
And to me, a large portion of that is also, it sucks because he is worth $11 million, and you can't give the excuse of like
at the time of his market, he was. There's no way you can make that argument right now.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But what I'm saying is like he's an $11 million player in the sense that that's what his cap hit is. So it sucks to be like, you kind of have to potentially give him Marner to be more effective and then move Nylander up to the Matthews line, right? Like when I see Tavares with Nylander, I see a potential hole that can be exposed, right? And that's not necessarily a good, obviously it's not a good thing. But to me, that's the biggest issue with the Tavares contract is like, you're kind of struggling to find him a good even strength partner, and he's $11 million worth. He deserves criticism. But he also, I think, is an 80-point guy. Like he was a point per game this year. That's not $11 million worth.
There's a lot of point per game players in this league that are making like 3 or 4.
Yeah, there are.
But what I'm saying is, sorry, let me explain where my because you make a valid point. My frustration comes from, and I mentioned 11 million a lot, because in a hard cap, that means there are 3 guys on this roster that normally wouldn't be there. Yeah. That's the problem. So if your guy's going out there tonight thinking it's going to be easy again and goes -3, you got a problem. Now they got away with it tonight. It's fine. But long term, because like we're getting like maybe could win a round vibes here, right? Yeah. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's definitely in play. Yeah. It's a different team from last year. It's in play. So I'm talking like, can you sustain these types of swings from your captain at that cap hit to win another 14 games? I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical of that.
That's the biggest then. I think like the duration, but I think in this moment, this year specifically, yeah, that 11 million sucks, right? It's because I think Dubas was expecting the cap to go up, and then because of COVID, it stagnated, right? So hindsight's 2020. There's a lot of players that probably shouldn't have been paid as much as they should, as much as they got, because of the assumption that, hey, we thought the cap was going to go up, right? But he hasn't been performing bad. I feel like he hasn't dropped off as much as people thought that he would drop off when we originally signed him for the duration that we have. I think that was the biggest talking point, the duration, right? And I don't see a big dropout. Yeah, exactly. And he has two more seasons. He has 2 more years left on that contract, and he's playing some of the. He's consistently he's sustaining the same amount of, I guess, production that he has throughout this contract, and like what he was playing in the Islanders with, right?
Yeah,
I don't think he's taken a drop.
I think he's taken a step back, like from an even strength perspective, but in terms of production, yeah, he's been very consistent. And the thing is, like, you know, we're coming off. Obviously, this was a bad game for him. Last game, he got a hat trick. You know, and I understand that that's not necessarily the biggest deal, but it was still like 2 even strength goals last game, 1 power play goal. He played well last game. Like without the production, he played well. You know, I thought his line did dominate those minutes. Right. Today, it's just something that it's not something that is exactly consistent with Tavares, in the sense that there have been inconsistencies, especially with his defensive play with Nylander throughout the season. And that's what scares me more than anything, rather than his offensive play is just like.
But it's a valid point. But here's what concerns me playoff wise about his offensive play, because I'm listening to Adam, Jesse, and Dangle from Friday.
Yeah.
And Jesse or Dangle pulled a tweet illustrating the average penalty minutes per game in a 7-game NHL series. And to no one's surprise, there's a lot of penalty minutes early.
Yeah.
And by like overtime of game 7, you can like hit a guy in the head with your skate and you will not get called for that.
Yeah.
Like it shrinks. So for all the power play specialists in NHL history, the longer a series goes, it has not been kind to them because there's no opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to go to your point about the 5-on-5 play, that is significant at this time of year. Yeah. Maybe not in February against Minnesota on a Tuesday night, but when these whistles are going to go away the longer this goes, we all know that. That's less power play time for John to really make an impact the way he is now. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Unless his 5-on-5 game
elevates,
really emerges.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes. Because that to me is something like that could be that important.
Yeah.
That could be the difference between Eastern Conference Finals or out in 7 in this series. I think Tavares is that important. That's why I keep harping on this.
I agree.
So we'll see. We've gone a long way on this, haven't we?
Yeah, we really have.
11:55 Eastern. Holy shit.
We've been going for over an hour.
All right. Sorry, Robert. You want us to wrap this up? We should probably wrap this up.
All right. Well, that was game 3. The Leafs were able to squeak off a win by the skin of their teeth, and they'll look to continue this forward on Monday. We'll see how game 4 goes. Hopefully it's a little bit better than what they showed today, but hey, a win's a win at the end of the day. Sid, thank you for joining us on Game Over today. Appreciate you coming on for the second time, and I'm happy that we can actually get a win for you to talk about rather than a loss to Chicago, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me to that damn game.
That was a 5-3 loss. I remember.
That was the worst game.
Yeah. Well,
no, I'm kidding. No, Harnish, Armaan, Robert, you guys are great. You guys are doing a terrific job here. And, if the Leafs decide to make this really, really interesting this spring, I anticipate you guys having a lot of success, because there's nothing like a good stream to hop on when it's a white hot story. So this is have fun with this. And if there's a Friday or a Saturday, school nights for me are difficult because of my hours on a morning television show. But if you need me to jump on again, let me know. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. And Armaan, where can they find you? Just give a quick shout out.
You can find me on Twitter at Armaan Panthicky.
Myself at Harnish_Patel98. And Sid, tell them where they can find you. They already know. Go forward.
You can reach me at that fucking guy on Twitter.
There you go. That's going to do it here from us. Good night, everyone.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.